Hey everyone, Jordan here, welcome back to a new review. Today we're going to be looking at the new Corsair K65 RGB Mini keyboard. This is Corsair's first 60% keyboard, which has been a highly sought after design amongst gamers, so let's see if it lives up to expectations. As usual, we'll cover some of the key features, then get inside the box. So as I mentioned, this is a 60% keyboard with a super compact design, measuring 294 by 105mm. So think of a piece of A4 paper folded lengthways. It's also Corsair's first keyboard to feature a massive 8000 Hz polling rate using Axon hyper processing technology, detachable USB cable, function layers and optional radiant spacebar for additional RGB backlighting. Other things to note, you've got a full key rollover and of course full RGB, and it's using Cherry MX RGB switches which come in either speed, silent or reds, and I've got the reds on this model today. And as a side note, I've got a UK layout inside the box, whereas it's a US layout printed on the box. People always ask why it's different, and that's why. So let's get inside the box. We'll find the keyboard under a plastic moulded cover which can be used either when travelling or as a dust cover when not in use. Documentation including instructions, safety and warranty information, USB-C to USB-A cable, keycap puller, and optional escape and spacebar keycaps. So onto the K65 Mini itself. By first look you can see how this gains the Mini title. In comparison to my K95, even without the wrist rest, it's absolutely dwarfed. Now 60% keyboards aren't for everyone, as to make them so small you sacrifice a lot of extras that you'd see on bigger keyboards such as media controls, function buttons and macros. To counter the lack of those keys, Corsair have implemented these in the way of a function button, then pressing the relevant key. They've even implemented functions to move your mouse and to do left and right click. You'll find the function key on the bottom row, 3 keys from the end. There's also a function 2 key which, when enabled in iCue, will make that button switch between the default presses of the keys. So for example, you'll no longer need to press function and O to increase volume, you'll just need to press O. This eliminates the need to hold down the function key. It's more of a specific feature, which is why it's not enabled by default. In addition to media controls, you've also got a window lock which changes colour when enabled, as do the caps lock and scroll lock, which is enabled by using the function key plus tab. The K65 Mini has got onboard memory, so when using the keyboard in hardware mode, which is when not running iCue, it will save directly to the board, or when the software is open it will go to an iCue profile. Having the onboard memory is great when travelling with the keyboard, as you can use all of your commands and macros when away from your desktop PC. This extends further too, allowing different layers of lighting, not just macros. Speaking of macros, to record one on the fly you can use function plus backslash, just to the right of the left control. Hold that down for 2 seconds, press the keys you want to include in the macro, then a single press of control backslash again, choose your key to bind it to, either on its own or with the function key, and then it's saved. It's pretty simple once you get the hang of it, and it's much simpler than it sounds when trying to explain it. Don't worry if you make a mistake as well, or want to clear a macro, there are also options to do that on the fly too. In addition to macro commands, there are also further special functions and hardware lighting shortcuts to the right of the macro record key. There are the profile button, backlighting brightness and the ability to cycle the lighting effects, direction and speed. I'll cover all of the features available in the software later, as well as the lighting, but keep it out in the video as a lot of the preset lightings will be shown throughout it. So let's take a little bit of a break from macros and commands and look around the rest of the board. On the back we'll find the USB-C port, and the removable USB cable is a very welcome feature. The included cable is braided with a nice tight weave and is 2 meters in length. On the underside there's not too much to talk about, just a sticker and a few rubber pads. There's no adjustment feet to be seen here either, but to be fair to Corsair, being such a small form factor, your wrists will be directly on the keys and you can reach the top line without moving your wrists. Corsair have added a small model name detail on the left hand side, a nice touch that we've seen with all of the recent releases. Now let's talk about the switches and keycaps. As I said in the start of the video, this one has Cherry MX Reds, and these require an actuation force of 45 grams and have 2mm of travel. Now thanks to Corsair's new Axon processing tech, it registers the key press 4 times faster than a conventional gaming keyboard. Coupling that with the faster input transmitting to your PC, this should give you much faster performance than other keyboards on the market. Another thing that I mentioned was this supported a massive 8000 Hz polling rate, and if you want to make use of that you will need to enable it in iCue, as Corsair ship it with a 1000 Hz rate to make sure there's maximum compatibility out of the box, especially with older PCs. Now Cherry Reds are very well known in the world of gaming and are still one of the most popular at the market. They respond as they should when fully bottomed out and feel great to the touch as they're paired with 1.5mm ABS keycaps. These caps have a nice texture and are matte finished to give them much more resistance to grease. It gives it a much more upmarket feel, so to speak, and a lot better than my K95, which is a lot more perceptible to grease with its gloss finished caps. The switches are on a white PCB, which adds emphasis to the RGB, which does look good and evenly lit. The addition to the extra escape key in the spacebar is nice, certainly for the spacebar, as some might purchase this primarily for the form factor and Corsair branding over the fact that it's got RGB too. So more of a minimal option in the box is certainly appreciated. For those of you that want to hear how this board sounds, here's the part for you. I will say that the spacebar can sound a little bit springy when pressed and fully released, but for the most part that's not something you're going to do very often. Otherwise it's a great usual cherry red sound. So not only does today mark the release of this keyboard, but also iCue version 4. Now let's jump in and take a look at the new software, as well as the options that the K65 Mini offers. So this is the new and improved iCue. It looks a lot more clean than the other one did. It seems a lot less cluttered as well, if that makes sense. I'm also recording this part live as well, so do please mistake any errors that I make while I do this. A nice little thing they've added is some sensors. So for example, I've got my graphics card 46 degrees that I'm currently at. It's actually really quite accurate. So that's a nice little addition. You can just add some information on there if you want. So let's have a look at number core 1, 19 degrees, cool as a cucumber. So let's go into some scenes. These ones are kind of presets, so you can literally tap and it will change everything that's connected into that certain scene. All my keyboards have just lit up, but for rainbow is my kind of go-to. So if we see the K65 Mini here, currently set to a nice rainbow wave. First thing we're going to look at is the key assignments. Now these ones here are for my K95, because I've got two keyboards. It's kind of assumed that they're part of it, but you can just ignore those for now. So to add one, literally press plus. So for this one, we're going to do a keystroke. Select your key. So let's say we're going to do it on 3, and then you can do whatever you want. So let's just do something simple. So maybe you want to make a copy and paste command, and then that's done. So say we want to add a control V. Say you do a lot of copy and pasting. I'd expect yours to be a bit more elaborate than what I've just done there, but you know, you're going to know if you're going to be one of the people that are going to do macros. So you can do the original key output if you fancy that as well. There are some more assignment libraries you can do. So if you want to make a preset and put it in somewhere easy to find, so maybe you want to just kind of redo your setup, you can just put those in there, and then they're easier to find than just in a big list. Let's keep going down. So hardware key assignments, this is when iCue's not running. So I haven't actually got anything on this by default, but this is something you can play around with again. Very similar to the last one. So if you're maybe going to a friend's, make sure you copy the ones you use on your iCue software onto there. And then you're going to have those when you're out and about, not on your desktop. So lighting effects, I'm currently going to disable the scene that's going on both of these just so I can show you this. Rainbow wave, but these are all the presets. I have shown these throughout the video, so if you do want to see how these actually look on the keyboard, then just basically watch the video. Nice little selection. The rain looks quite nice. Nice pastel-y colours. One that I would generally use would be a nice colour shift, alternating red and white. There you go. And one thing I do always touch on is how well that performs with the white colour, because RGB is a bit of a tricky thing to make white with. It's actually pretty accurate. It may not show quite as well on camera, but I can assure you the white is white, so that's good to know. Hardware lighting is exactly the same thing, but when iCue's not running, you kind of get the idea what the difference is between the normal key assignments hardware. So when it's running, when it's not running, when it's running, when it's not running. Pretty straightforward. And obviously you can add another layer if you fancy it. So maybe you want to do WSD in blue. There we go. You can do that. Performance. So these, when you do the Windows lock, you can change what this will do. So by default it's just a Windows key, but you can do Alt F4 as well, which is a nice troll you can do in the chat. I'll do Alt F4 to get more FPS. You can disable that, and then indicator colors as well, so you know kind of what status you're on by the different color that it comes up as. And then device settings, I've set my polling rate to 8000 Hz. As a quick guide, I'm actually using a 10-year-old PC and it's running 8000 Hz fine. So, you should be okay with pretty much any any PC within the last 10 years. You do have brightness options on there. There is a command for that on the keyboard if you want to use that, but the option is there. Firmware, always check for updates and make sure that's up to date. I've got the latest one running. Swap menu key function, that's the function key 2 button that I was saying about. So if you do want to make the, maybe immediate keys as default buttons, you can turn that on there. And then lock button indication on or off. If you want to clear everything and start fresh, you can press that one there. But for now, I'm going to keep my settings on there. I do like the iCue software. It's certainly not more clean than it used to be. It seems less kind of gimmicky as well. Just more minimal, and you can see where everything is nice and easily. So very nice. You can add another profile down here as well. So that'll allow you to do loads of different things, and you can do different profiles and store them on there as well. So maybe you want to do one when you're out and about, or if you want to have one for your desktop PC, one for a laptop, you can do all that in there as well. So lots of range in the new iCue 4 software, and I like it. Okay, a bit of a long one this time. That's what she said. But we're now at the conclusion. First and foremost, let's talk about the main selling point, which is the 60% form factor. Now, I'm not going to say that I swapped to it and got used to it within minutes of using it like any other keyboard. Not by a long shot. It does take time to get used to. Simple things such as a delete key are now an additional step away, unless you reconfigure it, of course. But if you're currently using a TKL keyboard, then that learning curve won't be nearly as bad. But for a full size to 60% swap, it's definitely a hockey stick curve down that boy steep. The best thing I can say is if you're committed to swapping to this size of keyboard, just set a realistic expectation that you will mispress and it will take a couple of hours to get into the swing of things, then you won't be disappointed. One plus side though, Corsair didn't opt for a stupid layout like I saw on my last 60% keyboard, so that in itself makes life a lot easier. Now props to the pure amount of function that has been implemented into the board. There's so much you can do even without needing iCue. All of your shortcuts, macros, up to 50 profiles, even 20 layers of lighting. Like, what the hell? That is really impressive. I particularly like the mouse controls they've put on there. I found that if I needed to do a simple click or slight movement of the mouse after typing, it was just easier to do on the keyboard than to move my hand to the mouse. The switches and gaming performance is absolutely perfect. Ultra fast response with the Axon tech, and games feel very fast and snappy. The cherry reds are as we've come to love and feel as good as ever. They're also great for typing too, pretty good all-rounder. RGB lighting is on point as you'd expect with Corsair, and you can really spend a lot of time dialing in different layers with iCue, and if that takes your fancy, you can do that too with macros. However, for quick changes, it's nice to have the on-the-fly adjustments and options on the keyboard itself. It does make life easier than having to fire up iCue just to make a simple change. The build quality and construction is solid. It's great news seeing a removable USB cable too, especially as it's USB-C. I think we're well past the point of micro USB, and I think we can all agree it's for the better. At the time of recording this video, the keyboard will be selling for $109, which is also £109 in the UK, or €129, which I don't think is too bad of a deal. A lot of people are taking a more minimal approach to setups nowadays, so a small form factor is a much more appealing aspect. And of course you can take it a step further and swap the spacebar for the solid variant if you want to make it even more stealthy. All in all, if you're willing to spend some time to adjust to it, I'd say this is a great feature-rich keyboard. I'll leave an Amazon link to the K65 RGB Mini in the description as usual, and if you have any more questions then please leave them in the comments box below. If you enjoyed this video then please subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss an upload. Big thank you to Corsair for sending this out for me to review. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.